We commence our ordinary meeting of the PREPA Governing Board today, Wednesday, 27th of 2019 at 2:07 p.m. I would like to start by welcoming Engineer Tomás Torres Placa to his first meeting as representative of the consumers. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Gracias. Thank you.
We also want to recognize that this is the first fully constituted Board of Directors meeting since 2017, and that we have 5 members who are independent members from the government. I think that's very important to note. You know, that we have a big population of people from outside the government providing help and advice through this process.
Okay.
Okay, having said that, let's commence this meeting by having our Secretary, Eduardo Arosemena, certify quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you noted, we have a full board today. Welcome to all. Present at hand is Chair Eli Diaz, Vice Chair Ralph Creel, Attorneys Maria Palou and Christian Sobrino. We have Mr. Charles Bayless, Mr. David Owens, Mr. Bob Poe, and Tomás Torres, member and representative of the public interest and the consumers. So we do have quorum. We can proceed, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Let's pass to the first order of business, which is the approval of the regular meeting minutes from our meeting February 27th of 2019. We understand there's a few members that were not here, so they obviously do not have to vote in this process. Do we have a motion to approve the meeting minutes? Charles has the motion. Any second?
I second. Mr.
Ralph
President.
seconds. Any opposed? Motion carries, and regular meeting minutes from February 27, 2019 are approved. Let's go to the executive summaries provided by the PREPA staff. We will start with the PMO office, and the PMO office report will be done by Engineer Jaime Lopez.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to excuse Mr. Fernando Padilla, who's not present today, the head of the PMO office. With us here is Attorney Francisco Santos behind me, and Engineer Mireya Rodriguez, who work for Fernando and the rest of the team. During the month of February 2019, the PMO office continued working on its 4 major pillars. That is the major procurement management team, RFP pipeline, the fiscal plan implementation, the necessary maintenance expense analysis, and the restructuring budget management. Quickly summarizing some of these efforts in each of the areas, during the month of February, again, the RFP pipeline for strategic project has 17 projects, of which 5 are on schedule, 8 at risk, and 4 behind schedule, as described on page 4 of the presentation. During the month of February, the fiscal plan projects accounted for 21 total projects, which have so far realized $48 million cumulative savings for those that have been implemented, as again presented on slides 6 and 7 of the presentation that was distributed to the board members. During the month of January 2019, necessary maintenance expenses spending is approximately 29% when compared to approved budget. We do feel confident that we will be reaching close to 100% full utilization of the necessary maintenance expense budget, as most of these projects are actually backloaded in terms of expenses. So the rate of expense year to date on the NME projects does not necessarily reflect the expected rate of expenses for the last 3 months of this fiscal year. And of course, our colleagues from Generation and T&D and the various departments are here to answer any questions related to these projects. During the month of January, PREPA has secured revenue targets in accordance with the certified fiscal plan, as year-to-date revenues were 4% above the projected budget. And again, my colleague Ernesto Morales from Finance will go into greater detail as it relates to the project, to the actual versus budget financial results. Out of the strategic projects, there's a few that I'd like to highlight very quickly. Some will be discussed during the course of this board meeting as well. San Juan 5 and 6 conversion, the contract was executed on March 5th of this year. Unit conversion is expected to be completed by late summer 2019. Mobile generation project has been submitted for FOMB approval, and is awaiting such approval. Vegetation management will be discussed later in the agenda, so but we will be requesting approval to pursue to commence the RFP process for an integrated vegetation management program for PREPA. And finally, street lights. There's a combination, of course, of private contractors, municipalities, and in-house crews that are aggressively pursuing the installation of street lights. 9 contractors have been selected for private contractors to support the in-house crews in the installation, replacement of street lights. Also, in excess of 22 municipalities have signed or have agreed, either signed or agreed to sign MOUs with PREPA to install street lights across their municipalities. And as I mentioned, in-house crews also are being aggressively used. More information on the schedule of street lights can be found at the webpage of PREPA, aeepr.com, under Camino Seguro. And that's the summary of the PMO office. If there's any questions for myself or the PMOT, we'll be glad to answer.
Thank you, Jaime. Do we have any questions?
No, sir.
For Jaime?
I do have a question, maybe it's
Go ahead.
for legal. When the San Juan 5 and 6 contract will be available for the consumers for scrutiny? Now that it's awarded.
The contract is already in the office of the Puerto Rico Controller Office.
So it's not on the PREPA site?
I don't remember right now if the contract is in PREPA site.
You can
Well,
download it
yeah,
on the website.
Following legal procedures, all contracts within 15 days of signing have to be uploaded to the Office of the Controller's office where they can be downloaded.
For the sake of transparency and for consumers to rely more in PREPA, can we have this contract in the PREPA website? So that will be my request.
Any other agency does that besides?
Not sure.
We can take it into consideration and
Let's just put it on the website. You know,
Apparently
any
it's
other questions?
public. Apparently it's public, but in another agency,
it's
so I'm
public.
requesting to be in
Yeah,
the PREPA website.
any other question?
No, I just wanted to make a statement. I found it curious that being on the controller's website is not for transparency.
No.
It's a play on words. Sorry.
No. Don't take my question
No, we'll post.
out of context.
Let's
Yes.
post it on the website.
Okay.
Okay.
And any future similar contracts should be posted on the website, so it shouldn't be.
That's the point. Thank you. Thank you very
Let's go to
much.
the second point in the agenda, customer service by Ms. Noriel Figueroa Melendez.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Noriel Figueroa Merende, Customer Service Director for the record. We would like to show you or talk about a little bit of our summary. First, as always, we start with the customer service call center. Our average waiting time was 19 minutes. It's going down, but not as we want it to be. So we're working on many initiatives just to make sure that we down this waiting time for 5 minutes. So that's something that we're working with the board, governing board, and we're working as a directorate too. Commercial offices, we have a waiting time of 42 minutes and 58 seconds. We wanted to point out that we've been, as we start a campaign, asking the customers to get close to us and make sure that they pass two bills and they make payment plans or be okay and make some arrangements with the company. We've been having a lot of visits on the commercial district offices. But as well, we have to point out that collections went up 20 millions. It was over 20 millions over that projected. So obviously, there's been an impact of this kind of approach that we were giving to the customer. Our billing progress, as all we know, after December 2018, we just started to bill 100 customers, once with meter reads, one with estimating accounts. And now that we've been receiving all new meters after many times that we were waiting for the meters to come in, they're already here. So we started to changing and replacing all those meters that have been estimating for a long time because they were broken because of the hurricane or they were damaged by any reason. So we're replacing them right now as a priority number one, so we can make sure that we just downsize the estimation percentage as soon as possible.
How many meters are involved?
Well, we need 120,000 meters, and now we got 50,000. That's the first the PO that we just asked for approval. We already have 10,000, so we asked for 40,000 in the last meeting, and it was approved. So we are waiting then for the rest of the meters to come in, so we can replace them all. That's the number that we're working around. We would like
Those are regular meters or intelligent meters?
Those are the same meters that we've been using as AMR meters.
Oh, AMR.
We are not talking about the new ones that we will be installing as the AMI project. They are not related.
Thank you.
Okay, so we want to tell that, and we want to thank Mr. Jaime Lopez because he's been helping us with getting through our government accounts and our municipalities. And we have to say that last month we got 800,000, I have to say, collections on municipalities' debt, and that we have and we downsize. We collect $14 million public corporations, governmental account, and federal agencies. So we want to thank Mr. Lopez for helping us getting through all these agencies and make sure that we can get an arrangement and we get a good approach so we can collect more. So even though, and we thank Mr. Lopez, right now we do have the government accounts balances is $271 million. So we have to say that even though we got this kind of approach, we still need to do and keep on asking them to be updated on their debts.
I would like to make a comment.
Yeah.
So for everybody's clarity, when we started with the new PREPA board after the summer of last year, one of the first resolutions was to enter into an MOU between PRASA and PREPA to deal with their inter-receivables. You know, PRASA being the largest outstanding receivable on PREPA's records, PREPA being the largest outstanding on PRASA records. AFAF has been working for the past 2 months with PREPA's team and with PRASA's team on reconciliation, and we are at a stage, and I think the CFO can agree with this, that we're at a stage that we are about to execute on that resolution, and once that is done, those $270 million in receivables will be reduced substantially.
Yes.
So it's
I didn't realize we were the biggest deadbeat to.
we are not deadbeats, and PRASA is not a deadbeat, sir.
And I have,
Before the chairman answers.
and I just want an opportunity to say that I am recused from dealing with any of the issues from PRASA and PREPA. On the PREPA side on the board, I will not, go into the items. On the PRASA side, it is the CFO's responsibility to deal with any issues pertaining to PREPA. I'm completely excluded from that type of discussion, just to make it clear. I want to make sure that, that nobody
Mr. Chairman,
thinks
that was, of course, a
I'm
very
playing
lighthearted
both
remark.
sides.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to hear that.
That's true. And I have to
myself
say,
also was included in the whole process, so it doesn't make it any easier.
and I have to say that I know it's been in the newspapers and all that issue about PRASA and PREPA, but it's real that PRASA has some objections that we've been analyzing still. So there's going to be a huge impact on their debt. So it's something that we're working on a daily basis with PRASA.
I wanted to mention, Noriel, on the municipalities, for the record, we have been working with them not only directly one-to-one, but also through the Asociación and Federación de Alcaldes, who have also offered to facilitate the conversations. However, the municipalities through the association are in the process of submitting arguments regarding the applicability of the contribution in lieu of taxes regulation, and we will look at that, of course, and respond accordingly once it follows the process through the Bureau, Energy Bureau. However, we're also, in the meantime, we're also approaching them and encouraging them to sign payment plans with the corresponding down payments while this process goes through. And some of the bigger municipalities like Ponce and other municipalities have been amenable, and we're working to get those payment plans signed as soon as possible, in addition to the prepayments that Nori had mentioned.
Right. And we will have to point out that is historical ascendance of payment plans request. We have to say that we've been working with payment plans, and we were helping customers just to make sure that they can deal with those past due bills in order for them to not be cutting off power. So that's something that we've been really active in. And I would like to add finally that there are many initiatives that we have been working for and developing here at PREPA, and that we're going to be launching soon, and we want to make sure that the customers will be satisfied, and that we're working really hard for them to be satisfied. So we were working with many other areas in PREPA and projects in PREPA that will help us get through that a better customer experience, a better customer engagement. That's exactly what we're looking for in this customer service directory. So if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them.
Hey, first, I'll just congratulate you. I've seen you on the press, and I've seen you out there making these statements. I think it's important to let people know of the progress and explanation of the billing process and all that. So I think that's been of big help. Does anybody have any questions?
I have one comment.
Go ahead.
And it builds on yours, Mr. Chairman, the idea of getting out in the press and talking about these good, successful stories. I think that's so important just in general as regards PREPA. There's a lot of good things going on.
Right.
And I hope that more and more we can get out small stories of continual progress, right? Because these aren't the sexiest things in the world, but they're very important to running an organization successfully, especially receivables.
Also, after we discuss it on a customer service committee, we want to make sure that we've been outspoken to the customers and make sure that they know that we know what the problems are and how we're going to be approaching them soon, and making sure that we keep on having these notifications of being outspoken to the customers, so they know exactly what we're doing and we are going and what the direction of PREPA on the customer service side will be. So we're going to be pretty active, just telling the customers exactly what we're being working with in order for them to be satisfied.
So you can put that in bill stuffers and other mechanisms.
Exactly, we can use the bill and we can put some messages so they notice exactly any message that we wanted to tell the customers. We can do it on the bill, we can do it in press or any other ways that we know, social media and everything that we've been active in, so the customers will know exactly what our projects are and what the direction we are taking.
Outstanding.
Thank you.
I have a comment, and is
Go ahead.
I have been approached by many consumers, especially residential and small business, that they had a invoice with a wrong reading. For example, a housewife with his kid, $1,000 a month after Maria. I'm talking after Maria.
Right.
Some of those problems, as recent as this week, I had been asked to work with. So my question to you is, what will be the plan if we're going to have a hotline, or if we are going to have a special treatment for consumers that a year, 6 months past Maria already has a bill that is not in accordance with their normal use of electricity in their home.
Well, a hotline is not something that we can do right now since we don't have enough CSRs just to handle the call center. And it's something that we can think about, but that's our reality at this point. But we have some reports that and after we discussed it on the committee, I asked for some reports that can tell us based on parameters which of the customers are out of range, or those bills they're not on the range of consumption of the customers. So that'll be something that we can just, as we said and we discussed, take them and work with them before the customer gets them.
But
So that's
before-
something that we want to do in order for us to correct the problem.
No, that's very good, but besides thinking on it, and I believe that we need to have a hotline at least. And I will propose it that we have a hotline for consumers that have problems with the wrong readings after Maria. We need to have that. We need a hotline for consumers that have a $1,000, $10,000 invoice. They need to solve their problem, and I urge you to work on that.
I just want
I was gonna ask something.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this is my first turn, right?
Yes, first turn.
Do we have an idea of how many clients or customers still have wrong readings post-Maria?
That's exactly what we requested, a report that will tell us exactly how many they are based on parameters. That's something our first approach will be to see exactly what the account will be. So and then after we have that number, we can work around and make a plan based on that number.
And my second intervention would be to say that recognizing that hotlines tend to respond to mass issues that should be attended individually, but that represent large volume of issues. Once you get that report, which should be within this month, this 30 days.
Yeah, sure.
March, that's,
We already asked for
you
it.
should touch base with the consumer representative on what would be the plan of action to resolve those pending queries.
Sure.
I agree. And second, I just wanted to add, we do have a call center, right?
Yeah, we do.
With a hotline number, pretty much.
It is, yeah. And
And-
any kind of complaints or any kind of
And all
information that the
complaints are
customer.
taken through the call center?
Yes.
And what is the approximate, volume of calls that we're getting and the process?
118,000 calls that we receive a monthly, yeah.
And
Here we've been taken care of, right?
Yeah, and there are a lot of calls, but there are many services. Any kind of customers that are asking for some explanation because the bill get too
course.
high, that's the right place to call. So, or visit obviously our district offices, then they're the experts that can tell them exactly what the problem was and how to fix it.
So I think following Christian's suggestion, then we should divide those up and pass them over and discuss this with the consumer
Sure.
representative. Go ahead.
I'd like to say this is also a little bit of an example of walk before you run. Noriad has a request or you already have a call center process going on to beef up your call center.
Right.
And your call minutes was, 59 minutes or something?
19.
19?
Well, that's an average right now that we have 19, but it can go up to an hour.
Right, so
Hour,
it could
18.
be pretty extensive.
Oh,
So
yeah.
The whole point of this, beefing up the call center, getting those extra resources
Right.
is to do basic calls just better first.
Slower.
And then after we get that tamped down, then it's really about adding some of these extra features.
Yeah, to the IVR, for example, there's some expanded that we can do in an IVR. We can dedicate, let's say, a line just for it in our IVR or the
Right.
IVR that we already use.
Special
So,
problems.
exactly. So we can redirect any requests or special requests from customers. Yeah, we can do that.
So I think this, what you're generally talking about fits in with her overall plan, but we're further behind than that at this
Yeah,
moment.
yeah.
We believe very much on the telephone, a good service on the
Right.
telephone. That's why we're bringing 2 additional companies
Right?
to take the overflow after 5 minutes,
Absolutely.
so that we can, after 5 minutes is plenty of time, to be responded.
Yes.
People shouldn't
So-
have to wait that long.
But on top of that, we're working on the media in order to work with a live conversation, live chat.
Live chat.
Yep, oh, yeah.
So that's another option we are adding with these services.
And
Yes.
then also emails to let people know, like, that you set up an appointment, come back in 20 minutes, that sort of features.
That's an idea that we're
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
But we need to
Entertaining
size
right now.
we need to size the problem. I know that I have been approached by many consumers, so we need to size, and I will recommend that a consumer that have more than double its consumption in one particular invoice be included in that list.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So we can meet and develop a plan to work with them.
Totally,
And possibly
totally.
develop an exception.
I'd be happy to help you,
And possibly
sure.
develop an exception report that lets you know.
That's exactly what we requested. We requested like an exception because it's
Yeah.
something that's out of range.
Exception.
So the system will identify it.
I think it's great. I think we can move this to one of the items to be
Sure.
discussed at the
Sure.
committee.
Perfect.
On customer.
Sure, I'll be happy to
customer
discuss
issues.
it with him, sure.
All right, let's move to the next item, generation. Engineer Daniel Hernandez Morales. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, everybody. For the record, Daniel Hernandez Morales, Director of Generation. So the summary of generation indicators for February are the follows. The performance indicators, we had 57% of the equivalent availability of all the units. We had 22% of program outage factor and 13% of force outage factor. In terms of total production per fuel type, our units that use bunker C consume for February only 20%. Diesel, the unit that are using diesel, that includes San Juan 5 and 6, 13%. Prepa units that use natural gas, that means Costa Sur unit 5 and 6, 23%. The hydroelectric system, 0.11%. The cogeneration from Ecoelectrica, 19%. And the AES, 21%. The private renewable produce 2.28%. From that 13% of diesel consumption, the 74% was used on San Juan 5 and 6. That's a big chunk of the diesel, which is the most cost fuel that we are using right now. The total production in February was 1.31 millions of megawatt hours. That means if I compare that production with the year 2017, is 10% below. That means around 300 megawatts of difference. That's keep constant during the past month, so it looks like we are running behind the production on 2 years ago right now. The prepa generation cost for February was 13.78 cents per kilowatt hour. For the renewables, we have 19 cents for solar, 16 for wind, and 10 cents for landfill technology. If we compare with prepa with the cogeneration, the prepa cost of production was 13.54 cents per kilowatt hour. Ecoelectrica was 10.17, and AES 8.53 cents per kilowatt hour. That's the summary of generation.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead.
I have just a question, Daniel. So the 2019 being behind 2018 and 2017, well, above 2000, green is 18. So we're above 18. We're making more than we were in 18.
Yeah, we cannot use 18 as a reference because that was just
mess.
after Maria and was during the recovery. So to be honest or to be fair,
Yeah.
to compare the production today, it's
17
better
is-
to use the year
17.
before. Yeah.
So, it still probably shows that Puerto Ricans have become a little more energy conscious. Is that true? Since
That-
17?
That,
They're
that-
using less kilowatt hours?
That's a lot of different things
Okay.
that is happening.
Yeah.
A lot of people just get out from the
They're
the
off,
U.S.
They're off, okay, right. So they left Puerto Rico.
That's right.
Right.
There's a lot of business closed.
Okay.
There's another customers that are starting to produce their own energy.
Okay, all right.
And you're sure there's the people are more realistic according to how they control their consumer.
Right, they turn the lights out when they leave
That's
the room
right.
and
That's
stuff,
right. Except my daughter.
Mine too.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So the projected sales of electricity for the next year are, the projected sale.
How many members of PREPA?
For the next year, I don't have the data
That will be
here.
planning.
Yeah, that is planning more than generation data.
And for the past 6 months,
We are keeping below more or less 10% constantly.
every month.
Yeah, every
Okay,
month.
thank you
It
very much.
looks to be a constant.
Okay.
What about the average capacity factors?
Sorry?
Capacity factors of our units, are we operating our units as
Yeah,
2017 compared to today?
I think we are a little bit better than the 2017. We are spending more money in maintenance.
Okay.
So we are trying to getting back, to catch up the maintenance program. So that's improve
Okay.
our capacity factor.
Thank you, Daniel. Let's go to our fourth point of the agenda, transmission and distribution by Engineer Jose L. Sepulveda Ponte.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon to everybody on this morning board. As for February 2019, there is a total of 1,558 outages at the rate of 35%, a little over of a third of a total of interruptions are due to deteriorated or damaged equipment, which is a result of reconstruction of a system due to Hurricane Maria, and still is a prevailing reason of for the total outages in our system since November of the last year. Outages due to lands and cut with vegetation is 19%. We're still in preparation for the next hurricane season in terms of vegetation management, with PREPA and private parties as well investing half of our weekly hours only just for this task, where the circumstances like emergencies and outages allow us to do so. For the inventory of our warehouses for the next hurricane season, the General Depot has about $47 million of materials. The usage inventory delivered to PREPA warehouses is up to $32 million for a total of $79 million in materials. It is a robust inventory to face the hurricane season, and what we believe is a good inventory is about $15 million, so we are above it. For the next fiscal year, vegetation management, as Jaime has been telling us, there is a budget has been requested to continue this task. Another important task is public lighting as well. This program has been held with the partnership of our PMO, so transmission and distribution has been a heart of it. Interruptions due to bad weather are about 12% of the total. So interruption due to human causes and foreign interference, such as wildlife, animals, and all that stuff, are the 11% of the total. What important projects we have on our directorate? public lighting, of course, we're still moving on repairs island-wide with our crews and the help of our municipalities, as Jaime was telling us, that accepted and signed and received materials for the work for the total of 148,000 luminaries that have been affected. 76,000 has been already repaired for a total of 51%. So we have still work to do. On the other hand, the RFP process to make contracts for repairs is going. The process took a little longer because of a complication of achieving the right price, but as Jaime has told us, it's ongoing, and it has not stopped PREPA, and we will continue forward on this. As for the materials, the latest report from the West warehouses in terms of public lighting put the inventory of luminaires on 69,000 for 65 watts, which are the ones that use on neighborhoods and secondary streets, and 46,000 for 125 watts, which are the ones we use on main streets, avenues, and highways. This is a good inventory to receive what the future contracts that we are working on. So the vegetation management, as said, this is the most important task for to be attended during these previous months of the hurricane season, with almost all PREPA crews involved on it. There are contracts for this task running as well and active and ongoing, taking place at Maya West region. They are doing well in our judgment. RFP process for these tasks will be continuous through the coming fiscal years, and it's our goal to have it completed, one that we are working right now, and available to be implemented as soon as the next fiscal year starts. On the transmission side, the program has its place as for the crews to clean the right-of-ways for the 230 and 115 cable lines. This action has limited the amounts of amounts on this voltage range, and this program as well is going to be continuous after helicopter patrols and notifications being delivered to the districts. This is the report for transmission and distribution. Any comments or questions?
Go ahead, Christian. So just to understand the graph correctly, if the red line is the goal and the blue line is the actual, we would say then that between December and February of 19, we have been at goal or better. Is that correct?
I believe is something that it's cyclic.
No, I'm
something
not
that
asking if it's cyclic. I'm asking
we
if
have been.
If the red line is the goal, and we're saying that in December, the blue bar was at goal,
Yes.
and January and February was below goal,
Yes.
we are doing better.
That's correct. And the trend is coming down.
Okay.
Yes.
So second question.
So when you exceed that red line,
You're exactly.
missing the goal.
Safe.
Right.
Okay.
So
Safe.
my second question is, there have been reports in the news regarding cats and iguanas, and we've had a lot of people speculating publicly about those incidents. I think it would do us good in the public meeting to address it with the professionals that actually do the work. So can anybody in the management actually comment to that?
I would like to comment. He certainly knows better the detail, but there are two things. One is the protection systems. All the systems are subject to this. If you Google it, you're going to find a big outage in New Orleans end of last year. So this happens everywhere. And when in Puerto Rico, when it happens in Atorrey, everybody knows. But when it happens in Jayuya, nobody cares. So that's the difference between among the last incidents. Sorry for the president.
I do. Just for the record, that was a joke aimed at our chairman.
But technically, these things happen. But technically, we have to certainly retrofit our protection systems, because these things were subject to happen. But our system should be able to manage those, to create, the less harm to the system and to the customers. So part of the ESM will address dramatically the self-contention of the protection systems. So that's part of what I would like to add to this.
It's a problem in Alaska with eagles. Yeah, their wings are long enough that they can touch both two of the wires. The eagle becomes vapor and the system goes down.
Well, we're going,
Happens a lot.
we have a question, Tomas? Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chairman, thank you. That is the frequency interruption index, right? How many, what is the index for the year? How many interruption a year we're having?
Well, we have an average of 1,000 to 2,000 interruptions per month, multiplied by 12. I can give you a strict number right now,
Okay,
but it's around that per month.
yes, but there is a matrix, it's called SAFE.
That's right.
What is the SAFE for the year? Before the hurricane, it was 12. So
Yeah, the
it cannot be more than that 365. SAFE is, we cannot have more than interruption per day than one.
yeah, it's something. It was about 48.48.
48.
Yes.
And what is our target for the SAFE?
Well, it's going below that, you know, and
But our target, what is the PREPA target for SAFE? For the system average
The safety
interruption.
is the graph at the bottom.
yeah.
So what is our target for SAFE?
Is that line where you have
The system average around is
0.3?
0.30.
0.3?
It's
0.3.
0.328.
33 for the goal, 0.33 for the goal, and right now it's about 0.40.
So we have 20 interruptions per year, let's say, is our goal. This is normal after a disaster that we have. I'm not criticizing, but the point is just to put it into context. Natural values for APPA is 1 a year. So we should be thinking in a, not now because we're in a crisis mode and we're in a post-Maria mode, let's put it, we understand. Before Maria, we have a system interruption index, a frequency interruption index of more or less 12. So we should have a goal of, I will say, below 5, maybe 3, or if we want to be real brave, 1, like the national average. But we should be thinking on what system we need to design to the future. That is not on the moment we're living, because that will depend the amount of funds we request from agencies that will impact even the IRP that we are doing. So we always noted that the interruption index for PREPA is high. So now that we are rebuilding our system, we should target to have 1 like the average of the nation, 1 a year should be our target.
Our comparison is to the eastern utilities, where these indexes are very low than that, much lower than that.
I know.
Much lower. We would like to do that, but we have stretched our goals with what we have right now, and really during the time we have making progress on this.
I understand.
They have been going down and down. So what we expect on the future is what you are saying
Yes.
as well.
We need to have a goal for a safety of 1. That's my challenge. To have a
Thank
goal.
you. I think it's clear that, we have to get the number as low as possible.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions? All right, let's go to the next item on the agenda. Occupational Safety Division by Ms. Shehali Rosado Flores. Thank you, Jose.
Mr. Chairman.
Can I start? Right.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So, good afternoon to all, boarding and the people, general public to see in the website. For the occupational safety report for this, the last month of February, reflect the incident 11.72. In the table number 1, in the first page, we have to change that, so that number is wrong. It's not 10.73, it's 11.72. This is a total for the 40 incident in total. So compared with the last month, last year, that was 19 less compared for the last year in the same month. That month, February, is no serious incident happened. That's good for us. But we have accumulation for the year that happened in January, 2 incidents. That what happened in TND. We divided all the incident for the follow cause. One is overstress, number 1. And we investigate what happened with the overstress and overload incident. Most of them was ergonomic problem. So we have to we deal with that ergonomic issue in different sites. Maybe tools, maybe the equipment, maybe in some we investigate. We see the general ergonomic issues. And the second one, fall and strip. Oh my God, we keeping that. And that most of them happen in generation side, and that's how was housekeeping, with all the housekeeping in the area in generation. And the third one is struck by, and I call that the overconfidence for each employee. When I see all the behavior what happened in those incidents, we have to deal with that. And we working with the prevention program in PREPA with all directors, and that is huge. If we divide all the incident by directorate in PREPA, this is the order. First one, TND. Second one, customer service. Third, generation. And 4, executive director. So that director executive include workshop and the warehouse. So we have to deal with that. So that happened with the warehouse and the workshop. What happened last month with the safety action in the PREPA? So we start working very hard, review all the emergency plans with all the PREPA facility in all the areas. We working with another office, collaborate with that. We start with the drills in most area, check the alarms for emergency. We participate in the Caribbean wave. That what happened last month, and that drill. And next month we have activity in April for the Memorial Workers Day is April 28th. We celebrate here in PREPA in April 23. So that we have the collaboration with the Puerto Rico OSHA, and OSHA Training Center here is in INEDA. INEDA is the center of the OSHA Training Center. Gonna be here in NIOS. So here in Santurce, we're going to give workshop, safety talks, free for all our employees. The other thing, we start the huge tours around the island with discussion with the local committee, safety committees, with the central committee for unions, with the management with PREPA. So we deal with the procedure, we share information, the incident, what happened, and we give so they give some complaints that they have with us. So it's in each region we're going to around. We start in Arecibo, the next will be Maya West, Ponce, in that order. We're going around the island. So we focus in prevention, more prevention here in PREPA. So this is my report. I have it. Any question?
Do you have a near miss? You keep a record of near misses?
Yes, but I give you that near miss. We start with any for the next report. I'm going to send the near miss. Yeah, I have a near miss. Yes. I like the correction action. I prefer. We have more correction action right now. We have when I start, we have a lot of near misses, but few correction actions. Right now, we
That
might,
we have to correct, that was what I
Yes.
was gonna ask back, so good. good.
for me, it's correction action. We have to take the correction action.
Thank you. Christian, go ahead.
Yes, I'm looking at the breakdown for February,
Mhm.
for the incidents in February, and I see that 38% of our incidents for last month were due to overstress, overexertion, or overload.
Yeah.
38% of our incidents are just
Those three.
burnout
Burnout.
or stress or what have you. When I look at
It's stress
the-
and ergonomy. We have ergonomy issue in those
And-
incidents too. Then.
And when I look at the directorates, we have they're mostly in T&D directorate
T&D.
and in generation directorate, with most of the others in customer service. That seems like something that we can address,
Yes.
that management can somehow address. And as I've said before on the board, I can live with a lot of things. I don't like living with that guilty conscience over people getting hurt. How are we, when you have such a large percentage due to that overexertion, overstress, what, do we have a plan on?
Yes.
And last time we spoke about overtime, and if I look at the graph, we're clearly working on the overtime issue. So it shows that what we discussed last time has actually been executed. What's the stress that we're looking at this month?
We have B2A making an analysis on the most critical areas, and that's basically to support the petition of some resources to the FOMB on the new budget. Certainly, we have people, doubling shifts, in too many areas. So we have been lucky so far that we haven't had a big issue. But certainly we, on generation and T&D, we have big issues, but also on the customer service as well. But we are identifying those particular offices or sites where we need more resources, and that will be the backup basically for the petition of new personnel for the FOMB.
So if and here's my second turn. So if what you're telling me is correct, essentially what we have is in these directorates, they're understaffed. That's forcing people to work double time or triple time. They're getting overextended,
Right.
they burn out, or they get into an accident. Because then if you count slip and fall, which is typically that you're too tired and you don't look, that's what happens to me sometimes. The way we could address this is by having more resources in those sectors.
In the short term, yes, but we don't have the situation in all the offices or in all the plants or in all the regions regarding T&D. So we have in some regions, it's okay. We just have to redo some of the processes. In some others, certainly we need some resources.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Paul?
So I have a question about, as our staff has dropped, sort of building on Christians, we're bringing in more contractors. In the oil industry, I know they spend a lot of time requiring their contractors meet certain safety standards as well.
Yes.
So what are we doing in terms of extending our safety effort to our hired contractors?
Well, right now we're working with all the contractor we have right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're working with the RFP preparer for the new
Does
contractor.
the
we're
RFP
waiting.
actually require them to tell us their safety
We
record?
already
or
have a
maintain-
meeting about all the safety meeting that we request a safety officer, and they have to report, and we have a meeting with all the contractor every 2 weeks. So I have we deal with the lesson learned. We share the near misses, what incident happened with those guys, with the vegetation management, with the municipality too. We give the safety talk that we deal with all right now working.
Everybody you touch, you're
Yes.
reaching. Okay, good,
So
good.
that is a huge.
That's
but-
exactly what I was hoping to hear.
The
Yeah.
answer is yes.
For example, the two companies that we have right now supporting on the vegetation management, they were not allowed to go to the field until they passed through the
No, that's exactly
safety
that's
training.
what I wanted to hear.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think you're probably true.
No more questions. Let's go on to the sixth item on the agenda, Human Resources. Mark Tice.
Everybody knows I really know what they're gonna say.
Good afternoon to the members of the board. For the record, Martes, I'm the Director of Human Resources and Labor Relations. And welcome our new member. We met already. Just for the benefit of them, I present a monthly report with the statistics of all our employees, medical report, and the cases and complaints in the labor division. PREPA as of February 2019 has 5,711 employees. If we compare that to the same period of last year, it's 413 less employees. On 2018, we had 6,124 employees. There, of those, 1,624 are in management. In Lautier is our biggest collective bargaining unit. There's 3,289 employees. With ISE, there are 541 employees. WEPI, 252. That's a professional union we have. And the pilots, there are 5 of them. And taking over the topic that was discussed before with Shehali, we're trying to identify our staffing needs for the next fiscal year. We've been discussing this with the CEO, and our plan is to identify those staffing needs for next year with the help of the different directors of the different areas, so that we know we have shortages in some special places, so we can address that. Also, as the executive director mentioned, we have a company that is helping us identify the staffing needs during the next year, and that's a process that is ongoing as we speak right now. So, well, then I submit the different reports, and that's our report.
Okay. Any questions? I think that it was addressed before, and so everything's being worked out. So we appreciate your report, Mr. Tyson. Thanks for everything.
Thank you very much.
Okay, our next report is item number 7, which is the financial. Nelson Morales.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'll be reporting the monthly financial operations flash report for the month of February 2019. Insofar as the change in net position, the deficit of $155.7 million as of February fiscal year to date 2019, as compared to $363.7 million as of February fiscal year 2018, is primarily due to an increase in revenues of $464 million, or 26.1%, offset by an increase in fuel expenses of $143.7 million, or 18.4%, an increase in purchased power expenses of $120.1 million, or 37.5%, lower operating expense of $4.7 million, or 1.1%, and a decrease in the contribution in lieu of taxes, or also known as SILT, of $2.7 million, or 5.1%. Insofar as sales of kilowatt sales for the month of February, they were lower than budgeted by 6.7% and lower than the prior year amount by 24.9%, primarily as a result of the business interruption caused by Hurricanes Irma and Maria. Insofar as generation for the month of February 2019, it was greater than budgeted by 3.4% and greater than the prior year by 24%, primarily due to the same, due to the recovery from the disruptions as a result of the hurricanes. Insofar as fuel use, actual year-to-date amount of barrels used was 3.2% greater than budgeted and 4.1% greater than last year. Insofar as the price per barrel equivalent, the average price for the month of February was $76.29, 4.5% greater than budgeted and 13.8% greater than the prior year. Insofar as fuel costs, The actual year-to-date cost of fuel as of February 2019 was $926.1 million, 7.9% greater than budgeted, and 18.5% greater than the prior year. This is primarily due to various reasons, such as greater fuel consumption in generation as a result of the normalization of generation subsequent to the passing of the hurricanes. Insofar as purchased power, actual year-to-date cost as of February 2019 was $440.4 million, 5.5% lower than budgeted, and 37.5% greater than the prior year. Insofar as a price per kilowatt for the month of February, it was 21.84 cents compared to the budgeted amount of 23.78 cents and 21.02 cents in the prior year. To mention that also insofar as silt, the year-to-date as of February was 44.1 million, lower than the budgeted amount of 51.1 million, and lower than the prior year-to-date actual amount of 47.3 million. I'd like to mention that the cash on hand as of March 15th, 2019 was 314.1 million, and that on Friday, March 8th, the $300 million loan with the Commonwealth was paid off. This loan was important in providing additional liquidity to the authority while power was restored.
Can you repeat that?
I'm sorry?
Repeat that, please.
Sure. So, on Friday, March 8th, 2019, the $300 million loan with the Commonwealth was paid off. This loan was important in providing additional liquidity to the authority while power was restored. And we want to thank, the central government for the support that was much needed in the aftermath of
Thank you for paying.
Thank you, Nelson. Any questions for Nelson? No questions? Let's
I
move.
have a question, yes.
Okay, go ahead.
I do, I'm sorry. Okay, Nelson, we have that, based on this table, we have,
That table up there he's looking at the one right there.
yes.
Yeah, okay.
This- yes, we have used more fuel than budget, but we have sold less energy. How can that be?
How's that? That we have the actual generation, right, for the month of,
Been less?
no, there was actual,
It's less than the prior year and less than budgeted. But we actually use more fuel. Maybe it's a detail that you need to check. I just call your attention that something doesn't sound, although the numbers are very close.
What he's saying, Nelson, is when you look at those sales and generation of fuels, we look at actual was 994 and your budget was 1,000, right?
And prior year was 1,300.
1,300 and your budget was 1,269. So when you look at the fuel side, actual barrels used was 12,138. The budget was 11,76. The actual barrels used the year before was 926 and 858. So you produce more kilowatt hours with less fuel in the prior year.
Yeah, but look at the efficiency.
I'm just trying to explain what he's.
Look at the efficiency and you see what happens.
Yeah.
right.
Okay, so that's where the answer is
And
in
he-
the
He
efficiency.
said they approved the maintenance of their plants, and so that's the
Right.
difference right there.
The point is that we are using more fuel, so we are being less efficient.
Mr. Chairman.
So we are being less efficient. No, I'm just calling that. I have no major comment, but
Different units.
Point taken, thanks.
Excuse me.
I want to have a point of order. I got completely lost on the tables.
I think
So
Fernando.
it's the upper right-hand corner
Excuse me,
table.
I think Fernando wants to explain something. Fernando, go ahead.
Yeah, just for clarification, there are two aspects here to take into consideration. There is one in accounting. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you come across on the phone.
Get on the video.
You're a good-looking guy, come on.
Thank you, Rob. Good afternoon, Fernando Padilla. Fernando Padilla for the record. You have various components here that move the target for the revenues, the fuel, and the inventory. So the first aspect on overall, we're providing a much more economic dispatch based on the WP 180 initiatives. That's overall one of the aspects. The second aspect you have here is based on that efficiency and also the curve of projection for the fuel, it's also being a driver. And third one, which is not as significant, but the accounting as we calculate in terms of what's being produced based on the price that is being actually that's been actually determined based on the accounting system in comparison to how the fuel is delivered. Sometimes we have an unsync. So when you see
so your fuel deliveries and your fuel usage could be at different.
There could be.
Got it.
You probably can see it once we get CUME for the first quarter, or the adjustments are done through the quarter.
Over a larger number.
Yeah. So basically, that would be the three drivers.
So the answer, for clarification, the answer of Tomas's question regarding disparity, we should look at it at a quarterly basis.
I think it would be much better if you look at CUME.
But yes, point is across, but the point is that we need to address efficiency. Because
True.
if we are not efficient, we will waste fuel, and that will be cost to consumers. And that is a point that I know we're all working, but just to stress that these tables reflect that. So if we are not being efficient, if PREPA is not being efficient, those tables tell, those tables speak. You're not being efficient. So I know we're all working, I know the board, PREPA is working on, but I just want to stress
like
that
in
for now.
occasions, if we have an outage on, I'll put an example, San Juan 5 and 6 or Costa Sur 5 and 6, you're going to see the skew right there.
Yes, okay, we'll take it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Fernando.
Okay.
And thank you, Nelson. Let's move to the item number 8 on the agenda, the Chief Executive Officer Executive Summary by Engineer Jose Ortiz Vasquez.
I have a bunch of items here, but let me try to cover at least the most relevant ones. On San Juan 5 and 6, we're still on track to have them up and running. San Juan 6 in July, San Juan 5 in August. On a weekly basis, we basically prepare a report to the Coast Guard, and we are working already with on the air permits with EQB. So that will be several months ahead of time, before the operation. So that's on San Juan 5 and 6. On the ESM, it is completed. It's going to be presented, the technical aspect of all of that in the College of Engineers, the Institute of Electrical Engineers, on this Friday. They asked us to present something, so we're going to go over the technical aspects all the morning. I'll be doing some introduction and some general statements about where we're moving to, and the Navigant team will be presenting the technical aspects of protection, resiliency, cybersecurity, and all that.
Sorry, can you describe, for the record, what the ESM is?
Energy System Modernization. This is the plan based after Maria event that we devised with the Core 3 in order to address future weather situations like Maria and others. All right, thank you. In permitting, we have a big chunk of permits requested to OCPE for many projects. We're making a special effort to provide resources there so that we expedite those private projects. That's good for the economy, so we're moving some of our resources from the field to support that. We have over 100 projects that are waiting for our approval or recommendations, so we're going to put some special effort on that. You know that the T&D due diligence presentations will be happening in the next couple of weeks. So we're going to have the proponents or the participants with a presentation from the management in order to understand where we are, our initiatives, and share with their concerns. In terms of the Congress, it was like 2 weeks ago that 2 Saturdays ago, Christian Sobrino and myself made a presentation to the Energy Commission Energy and Natural Resources Commission in Puerto Rico. It went very well. We spent like an hour and a half talking about the changes in PREPA. I received very good comments from the components of the commission. Actually, the next day we received two Congress people here, Darren Soto and Rubén. What's the name of the last one?
His last name is Reunión.
Yeah. The congressman from Arizona.
Grijalva.
No, the other one. Anyway, they came to PREPA, and they basically met our staff. We talked about the different initiatives, and we took them to the center of operations we have here. They learned that we are not so behind on technology, and certainly we're able to support in whatever we need in Washington. The next presentation before the House Commission will be on April the 9th so far. That's an invitation that's pending to be confirmed in terms of the date. There is also a presentation, two presentations on the one on Friday on the College of Engineers. I talked about that one already. That's for the energy system modernization. And the University of Chicago, upon request of the Fiscal Oversight Board, we're going to be presenting the different initiatives that are taking place in PREPA. That's this Friday afternoon. And on Saturday morning, we're going to have the Wharton School of Business presentation. The governor will be the night before. We're going to be on Saturday with a panel with several local and mainland presenters. I will be in a forum, in a panel, to talk about the electricity in Puerto Rico and how to reduce the cost and all that. Also, we're going to have I think it's going to be tomorrow in the afternoon, we're going to have the Humacao Electrical District mayors tomorrow to present what we're asking from FEMA in terms of providing resiliency, cybersecurity, what we are doing on the substations, interconnections, the hardening and all that to those 4 mayors, because that's going to be the first district that will be addressed with the FEMA new codes and standards. We want them to be aware, make comments, so whatever we learn from them there and their questions, we can certainly translate into the rest of the island. We're going to talk about how the procurement is going to be developed and all that. They will be very interested on that, obviously. And eventually, we're going to have one with the Vieques and Culebra, which is another one that we're running in parallel with those measures. Those are the toughest ones to to put together. They're in 2 different islands, and but certainly the Humacao district that includes Naguabo, Las Piedras, and Yabucoa is going to be the first. I'll say the benchmark for the rest of the island in terms of the grid. And the good thing about that is that it integrates renewables, batteries, and basically we have all the components in that particular spot of the island. So that's basically the next activities we have. We're certainly working very hard on the RFP to bring additional vegetation management companies. We want to be ready for the next coming hot season, in the hurricane season, which is normally the last 2 weeks of September, the first 2 weeks of October. We're heading into that with a better condition, at least on the vegetation side. That'll be it.
Thank you, Jose. Any questions? Bob?
I'd just like to say it's good news for moving forward on Humacao and Vieques and Culebra. And I know Humacao is like right where the shear wall of the hurricane was, so it just stayed there and did lots of damage to those guys. I know we can barely, oftentimes in Vieques we have to go to Humacao to do different government business.
Right.
We don't do that anymore. That's how beat up Humacao was. So
yes,
it's really bad.
Normally the east of the island suffers the most normally under every event.
Yeah, because the storms come from Africa, basically. So.
Right.
Chairman, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Jose, you mentioned something about the ESM plan.
ESM.
Can you explain further?
The energy system modernization is a plan that includes, the customer-centric approach, the decentralized generation of energy from many sources, the resiliency, all this new grid that we envision, except the generation side. Although we talk about that, it's not very specific about it. We touch that more on the IRP. But certainly this was prepared by the Core 3 with the input of TRC, Navigan, the DOE, and many other entities. Basically, it's for the hardening. It should, according to Bruce Walker's words, it should become the benchmark of the electrical industry in the main in the U.S.
But there was a resolution, an order from the Energy Commission with high concerns regarding the ESM plan because it was an exclusion of long-term capacity expansion planning. And by the way, and it was required to this organization to answer back to the Commission and more or less to the Energy Bureau to kind of provide additional information because the Bureau was not satisfied since basically the ESM is a waiver to the IRP process, to the long-term capacity expansion planning process. So
let me correct that something because you're right.
Yes.
But the ESM that it makes reference in the IRP is not the same ESM.
Oh,
so
there are two ESM.
Yes, there are two different things, and we identify that situation, and we are clarifying that. In the next call, we're going to be talking about that. This ESM is for something else. So we are trying to change this energy system modernization to energy grid modernization, to change the acronym.
And the ESM that will not require the Energy Bureau approval, what will be maintenance?
Mr. Chairman, can I be recognized?
Yes, go ahead.
To answer the consumer representative's questions, we at one point following the hurricane were consistently questioned by stakeholders in the private sector and in Washington which plan was the plan. Because there was the fiscal plan under Promesa, there was the IRP for the Bureau. PREPA has traditionally had its own planning documents. The CDBG HUD funding required an additional document. Then we commenced in the privatization efforts. Those required marketing and data plans to be shared with possible proponents. And at one point, both PREPA and the Core 3 recognized that efforts had to be united and create one document that we could all, even if it's not perfect, could use as a guiding light in these discussions with the different stakeholders. So the IRP, which is a very thorough modeling process and planning process, requires a set of exercises that we just simply do not require as part of the ESM. And the Bureau, I think, correctly stated, if you're going to include any scenarios, they need to be modeled for the IRP itself, for that purpose. The ESM that management will be releasing on Friday at the College of Engineers, it's more of a aggregation of vision. It provides a vision of where PREPA and the Core 3 at this point wants to head. It aggregates data that's included in the IRP, but it's not yet certified. Data that's in the fiscal plan that's not yet certified. So it is a tool to communicate a vision more than anything. Is that accurate?
Yep.
Well, my question is then, the IRP is legally binding. If the IRP is approved and is not in line with the ESM is just a reference document, not a legally enforced document.
Yes.
So basically, it will not serve any purpose.
No, you're correct, but that will be addressed.
Sorry. So what you're saying then would be that this whole binder serves no purpose because it is not legally binding?
No. We're talking of the planning of the electric system for 20 years. That plan, which is Integrated Resources Plan, which is the planning of the electric system for the next 20 years, once approved by the Energy Bureau, is legally binding. If everything in this is not in accordance with that, so
So what I would say is they're both, they have value in their context. The IRP has a context in which it has value. As a marketing instrument, the IRP is useless. But
Yes.
nobody would say that the IRP
No, I agree.
exercise has no value.
the core need to be the same.
And if the IRP is approved in a certain direction, it would behoove PREPA and the Core 3 to align the ESM in that direction.
Exactly. That's
We're
exactly, yeah.
inconsistent, we're inconsistent, it would be made consistent.
So what you're asking really is that the ESM eventually be lined up with the approved IRP.
No, what I'm saying is having two plans is confusing to everyone.
No, we have the same macronisms. It's not the same. It's not the same.
And sir, we agree, but the Fiscal Oversight Board doesn't.
But
Right.
No.
Right.
I understand now after you explained, and you were very kind. I really appreciate your kindness in explaining. Now I understand that the ESM will be a vision. The real plan will be the one approved by the Energy Bureau. And then if the vision needs to be adjusted after the approval of the Bureau, it will be.
Perfect.
Right, but there is a point that is very important to bring to all the members, because I just learned this a while ago, which is that if there is a project that is not on the IRP, that is with free money, I'm trying to make this very simple. Let's say the federal government says, I'll build a plant for you. That doesn't have to pass the approval of the IRP, the approval of the PREP, because it doesn't affect the rates. This is
Free, if it's free money.
because it's free money.
Yeah,
So on the ESM side,
Well,
a caveat, but let me finish.
No, I disagree.
The
on that.
caveat, let me finish.
Yes.
The caveat on the ESM is that if all the monies come from the federal government, then in a way, using that consideration, you could build it without affecting the customers.
No, and that's a great point, but let me explain. If we have the IRP, and we, based on the IRP, we do some contracting and PPOAs with some companies that will supply energy to PREPA. And then we have this freebie. Then we have free money, and we build a brand new plant for free. And we start buying the energy from that new plant. If we don't buy the energy from the previous PPOA that we contract, that is a burden to consumers, because those monies will have to be paid, because we already make a contract that we need to purchase energy. So we need to be careful, even if it's a freebie.
No, that's absolutely right.
Understood. It's
yes.
very important that the board understands.
Yeah, no, that's true.
David, any comment?
No, I agree with you.
You cannot overbuild.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I agree, you gotta make the adjustment.
So if we overbill with free money, it will be a burden to
Right, but
consumers.
he wasn't really saying that he was planning to overbuild. He just using
Right.
it as an example of how
Right.
those two might be different.
So that's,
And let me tell you, that's where we're fighting in some fronts.
Yes. Very good.
Timely consideration of these things is gonna be beneficial to the consumer, so
Right.
it's just a matter of doing it that way. Thank you, Jose.
Gracias, Jose.
Let's go to the proposed resolutions. The first one, Vice Executive Director, before we start, I passed around a resolution based on one of the conversations that we had prior to starting the meeting regarding,
That's this one? This one?
yes, the direction to the executive director and his legal team to include clauses that would allow for any type of the PREPA transactions and any of the different possible scenarios established via law and regulations. So please take a look at it when you have a chance. We don't have to go into that one directly right now. We can leave it towards a little bit.
Mr. President, we could do the number one, but after that, I think we should go over this one. So after it's approved, everything else is clear that this is binding to this.
Okay, do you guys want to look at this resolution first and just?
I'm looking at it, I'm good.
Okay. Again, it goes towards complying with the law, complying with all
And avoiding the kind of things we have with the.
Exactly, and avoiding certain items. So if there's a motion for,
I'll move to approve.
you move to approve, so second?
I second.
Ralph will second. Anyone opposed?
I will prefer to have a further vote.
I'll wait for,
I may approve it, but not right now.
Would you like to read the resolution?
I would like to have some time, maybe discuss it with some other board members first.
Could we
Well,
recess?
actually, we have a motion and a second
Right.
on the table right now. We're up for discussion. You can't undo that, so you, unless we withdraw the motion.
We're gonna take a 5-minute recess?
I will- Yes, thank you.
All right. A 5-minute recess?
Ahora 4:30.
está perfecto. Pero si te liquida, porque si no.
Sí, no.
Eso fue el moment. What? No, do you want them to take it offline for the moment?
Yeah. Well,
Déjalo saber.
no,
O sea,
déjalo
déjalo
así.
así.
Déjalo así.
No, claro.
Cristian.
Ahí
que se abstuviera.
No, que si puede votarle a favor, que le vote a favor, porque lo vea. Se entregó ahora porque no debe haber problema para que lo vea.
Vamos a ir mencionando que aquí se mantenga como
porque no está completo antes.
Que no se puede cambiar porque
Pero igual que no por eso se puede estar acá y arreglamos acá.
Claro, ahora. En cuanto al contenido, no, sin contenido está bien. Está de más. Claro, se presume. Claro, pero de mantener la sustancia.
De la sustancia y lo otro son cositas para nosotros.
Sí, lo trabajamos de ahora, claro que sí.
quedaba otra persona.
No, está bien.
Ah, pues el récord.
Sí. Ok. Está bien. Bueno.
A mí me le ponen nombre y no.
Una amiga más blue.
Are we on? All right. Okay, having had a break to look at the resolution.
We have a motion and a
we-
second.
we-
It's open for conversation.
It's open for discussion. I believe we have two motions to amend the resolution as written.
Start with Tomas, right?
Tomas, let's start with you.
Yes, basically is that if in any contract that is not well performed, or this board or the executive is not satisfied, it can be canceled without any penalty to PREPA, and basically that's the point. So you
Do you have a
should,
specific wording then?
so you should read amended receipt by the sole discretion of PREPA's management and board, and any proponent.
So what page is that?
This is the last
page,
paragraph.
last page.
Sorry.
Could you say that one more time, please?
At the sole discretion of PREPA's executive director, the board, and any proponent.
I agree with the change, but he's essentially indicating that it's not only the proponent that can do the modification or cancellation.
Yes.
That we can, in the due diligence and closing process, execute through management or the board.
Exactly. So we were going to add under by
Or the sole discretion.
by the discretion of and by any either proponent selected, governing board, or the executive director. Okay?
Yep.
But it's qualified by as in a PREPA transaction.
In a PREPA.
Yes. I mean,
Well-
we can't unilaterally cancel a contract just because we don't like it.
No, it's going to be, and we'll work the language. The idea is to have
It says PREPA
a
contract.
PREPA transaction. When there's a PREPA transaction, either the proponent who got the PREPA transaction, the governing board, or the executive director may do any of the actions mentioned above.
The ultimate effect is that in these contracts, a termination for purposes of consummating a PREPA transaction is considered for cause.
Exactly. And we'll model the language out. Thank you.
Yeah.
Tomas, do we?
So now, he's made a suggestion, so
I
your
would-
request is, would we modify our motion
Yeah.
to accept the changes?
Yeah, but let's go to the other change, so we pick up all
Okay,
of them.
great, thank you.
Okay, let's go to the second suggestion, Christian.
Yes, where it references Act 29 of 2009
That
for
page, last
purposes.
page again.
Yes, I'm going right now.
Second, third page.
It's the third page, the second whereas on that page. It says in connection with and due to the fact that P3 Authority has begun various transformation processes as PREPA transactions, as that term is defined under Act 29, 2009 and pertinent regulations. I would move to correct the reference to Act 29 to actually be Act 120 of 2018.
I just want to add that for record, the purpose of this change is that neither PREPA or the consumers are penalized by any cancellation of any contract.
Okay, agreed.
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 So the request is to modify the motion. Are you good, Ralph, yet?
Mr. President, I accept the changes on the
92
motion.
is the original.
And the second.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody opposed?
Actually, I originated Ralph's second. So-
Exactly, so
So I accept.
you accept?
Yeah.
Nobody opposed, so it passes.
Good job.
Motion carries, resolution carries. Make the changes consistent with our discussion, please.
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll go to now the second proposed resolution. It's the Vice Executive Director confirmation, and it's in charge of Engineer Jose Ortiz Vasquez. Go ahead.
Yes, Jaime Lopez, with a very extensive public and private experience and very thorough education, is joining our PREPA team, basically to mostly head all the streamlining initiatives in order to simplify the processes. We're still with processes that were addressed with 12,000 employees, and we have less than half of that these days, so we have to certainly streamline and modernize our actual procedures to the new reality, fiscal reality. And basically, we're asking to, confirm his appointment as a deputy executive director, and it's basically within the salary parameters and zero bonifications other than the Christmas bonus for every public employee. His salary is under less than half of the former person who occupied that position, and even less than the former public employee that we had previous to the former one. So that's our request.
Mr. Chairman, you looking for a motion?
Yes.
All right, so I'll move to confirm.
I have a question.
You get it
Yeah,
one step at a time.
Let's go to the second first. Do we have a second?
I second.
Sorry.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Very
Now
sorry.
it's open for
Now
discussion.
it's open for discussion. Go ahead, Tomas.
I'm very sorry.
It's okay.
Thank you,
No.
Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Cole.
Yes, sir. We're gonna have fun.
Mr. Ortiz and Mr. Lopez. You said that Mr. Lopez's salary will be less than the current and the former. What will be that salary? What is the number?
$149,000.
Can you repeat that?
$149,000. And the former person in charge of that administration position was on $325,000. And previous to that one, the deputy director was $170,000.
And what will be Mr. Lopez's responsibilities? What will be his main task?
His main task will be to revise and basically to revise mostly procedures, to streamline all the processes we have. We are still, less than, we used to have 12,000 employees, and we have the procedures to be managed by 12,000 employees. So, and right now we have 5,700 basically, and we have to, make those processes fit to address in a better way the customers, to make a simpler decision making and execution in the agency. So it's very important to streamline to the reality, to the actual reality of the manpower, the modernization actually of the systems. Use more technology in order to serve our people through call centers, and better communication with the TND and so on. So basically to streamline the agency.
Basically, it's an open position.
It's an open position. It was approved like over a year ago.
Right, and any other questions?
I just want to add a comment. So
Yes,
I've
go
had
ahead.
a chance to work with Mr. Lopez and have found I really enjoyed working with him. I thought he was very bright, right to the point, really understands what's going on. And all of those things that Jose just went through all result or should result in lower costs in the
Absolutely.
organization as well. And so I think that you really do need some coordinated effort to streamline things and not screw them up, which, both things can happen at the same time, and to reduce costs, to make a more rational process.
If I may, thank you for your kind words. From my perspective, coming in, the challenge that I saw was an opportunity to basically initiate the transformation of PREPA from within, and that's kind of how I see myself supporting the executive director, in addition to any other administrative item that he might require from me. And you've seen throughout the different meetings that we've had that our focus is efficiencies, processes, revenue collections, information technology, the way that we interact with our customers. So things that will impact the bottom line and the transformation. So
Thanks, Tomas, Bob, and thank you, Jaime. Same being said for me. I think a lot of the information that has come up to the board, you have been very helpful in synchronizing a lot of the data and getting us a lot of the information in this process. So I thank you. If we have no more comments, anybody opposed to the motion? Having no opposition, the motion carries. Let's go to the next resolution. I have to step out for a second, so I will pass over to Vice Chairman. Approval, direct negotiation for project TS M37-18, requisition, turbine rehabilitation for Central Aguirre by engineer Daniel Hernandez Morales.
Yes, good afternoon once again. We used to run unit 1 and 2 in Aguirre with 3 turbines, one always spare, just to use it every major overhaul. So in 2015, one of the units, the unit number 2, suffered a catastrophic event on the turbine. The turbine was sent to the OEM facilities to analyze the malfunction, and it's there from then. So what we're trying to now is to finish to pay the rehabilitation of the unit, so we can have the spare unit in Puerto Rico. If something happening in the units that are running right now in service. So the cost is around 2.9 million. It's subject to the final negotiation. We are more or less projecting that we are going to use $450,000 for this fiscal year. Okay, and it's subject to the final negotiation. So what we're looking for is the approval of the board to have the direct negotiation with General Electric, which is the OEM of the units.
Okay, I have, first of all, the 2 units at 1 and 2 are the same. They use the same turbine, so it would be one spare for either one. The second thing is, the budget being, do we have the budget for making the repair?
Okay, so this will be subject to the certification of funds, so.
Okay, it has not been certified yet.
No, so the finance directorate, approves of moving forward with this, subject to certification of funds.
You want a motion subject to.
Yes.
Subject to, and on the legal side, with that from MFB?
Yeah, we evaluate the transaction and we include in the documents for the governing board the legal opinion.
Perfect, okay, so that's taken care, it's subject to approval. Any questions before any motion?
You need a motion, right?
Yes, sir.
So moved.
Charles, and seconds, David? Okay. Any against?
No, you can't.
I have a question.
You have a question, okay.
I'm not used to Robert rules, I'm
You're
sorry.
getting there.
Previous board participate did not use Robert rules, so, well. Right now we have Aguirre, steam 1 and 2. Are those units are used for the base generation of PREPA?
That's right.
The 2 units.
Yeah.
And basically, that turbine is an spare turbine.
That's right.
If one of the turbine breaks, do we have an spare turbine?
Right now, the spare turbine is the
that?
ones that we need to repair.
So we do
And how come that cannot be in the budget? I know that we're approving this subject to the budget, but if we have 2 turbines and we don't have any spare, that should be on the budget.
Right. Well, that would be in the, the necessary maintenance expense, but has to just go through the process formally.
Yeah,
so
and,
that we can- but it's-
Tomas,
No, I understand now. Another question is, if one of the Aguirre plants turbines broke and we don't have that spare, do that mean that we will need to have outages?
Not necessary if all the rest of the fleet including the private ones, are available. But if you have or we have another outage from all these big power plants, for sure, we can have an outage.
And
because of that.
not only that, you go into spending more diesel fuel than instead of going.
Actually, the return on investment of this rehabilitation is only 11 days if we are burning diesel
The payback
instead of
is 11
bunkers.
days.
So it's a
You're saying the
huge
payback is 11 days?
11 days.
Yeah, but that's a comparison between diesel and number 6.
That's right.
Okay, see. So, okay, we have
I
the
like
motion,
11-day
it's
investments.
supported. Any against?
I would like to make a comment before.
Sure, Christian.
We should always keep in mind that while we can place requests in our budget documents and even approve them in the governing board, the budget is ultimately certified by the fiscal oversight board.
That's right.
And our past experiences have shown that notwithstanding we including necessary items, the fiscal board has not approved them. And then we have had to go into the millie. So that would clarify why something is not included in the budget.
Thank you.
That's all, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Christian. No, you have a
Can I
question?
ask a question?
Sure,
sort
sure.
of on point? As you know, the International Maritime Organization has ordered all ships to start burning low sulfur diesel in 2020. And it's increased the cost of shipping or low sulfur bunker C or anything low sulfur. To get a ship, a very large crude carrier from the Mideast to Japan's about 2 million. It's going up to 3 million with that. It's totally messed up the bottom of the barrel fuel prices. Is that going to have an effect on this?
No, that I know. All the information that I have is not related to that.
Okay. No questions, no more questions?
Yeah, no
Anybody else?
objection to the
No
motion.
objections, so it's approved. Subject to the
Certification of funds.
certification. Okay. Thank you, Daniel.
Okay.
Now we go to the fourth resolution, which is the direct negotiation with Accenture LLC. Mr. Madero.
Yes, good evening. I'm proposing the master service agreement with Accenture, as we discussed this morning, for the digital transformation journey about the grid modernization as part of PREPA. They will help us to manage the RFP for AMI and MDMS. They will help us to do technological update of customer information system, corporate data warehouse with big data and machine learning, ADMS, Advanced Distribution Management System RFP, and OMS integrated with DMS SCADA. That's the strategy that we will be contract with Accenture.
And wanted to specify, it's a multi-year agreement proposal, divided in 6 scopes of work that Mr. Madero mentioned. Also, for the record, this contract does not displace or replace any current employee of information technology.
It's for the strategy officer and will help out during the RFP process.
So can I give just a couple clarifying questions? So it's a multi-year contract. So what's the amount of the contract?
The amount of contract is $6.3 million.
So why Accenture? Why Accenture? There are other firms that can do work like this. Why do we choose Accenture?
Okay, we first tried to contract Black and Beach because we have a resolution from the government board in 2012 to do that. But Black and Beach, we signed a contract, but the last CRO of PREPA canceled that contract. So, because they have a bondholder relationship, so they are a conflict of interest. So now Black and Beach doesn't want to work with us. So that's why we accept Accenture, because this is a specialized work. It's critical for PREPA. We discuss with them, and they do in a lot of utility, ADMS implementation, vendor selection, AMI, digital transformation. We evaluate them, and they provide that kind of professional with a lot of success.
They provide that
The whole portfolio.
I see.
Yeah.
A follow-up question. Is there any other on the market so we can make an RFP for this request?
We don't know, because the constraint that we have is that those are utility special application. What we evaluate was we have just 2 major companies like Black and Beach and Accenture. I do not recognize any other. I don't know if you have another one. Maybe other companies do by themselves, but we don't have that kind of resources. We need to do value assessment, economical ROI. There are a lot of technical specifications. Evaluate supplier proposal as technical side. It's a very complex implementation. Those are huge and expensive implementation also. You need a firm that specialized firm like Accenture or Black and Beach, but due to Title III, we are not attractive to.
How urgent is to have that service?
Oh yes, for example, at AMI, we are losing a lot of collection, as you know. AMI is the portal of the customer with the smart grid. The AMI
meter readers.
With the meter reader, yes.
Meter readers.
Those are the smart metering. Not only readings, billing, just there are 26 more parameters that we can provide from the customer. We can increase outages response. So we will be, the side will be automatically created by the meters himself in the data analytics.
Okay. And this contract is just the writing of the specification for going further?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's remember, that's 2 interventions, then we'll let the rest, and then we'll come back to you if there's any more. I just want to ask my typical questions. We have a certificate of finance?
Yes,
for
Yes,
funding?
there's a certificate.
And do we have legal opinion on the process? And we understand that the process is allowable under current law and regulations, correct?
Yeah.
All right.
I present the motion, Mr. President.
Seconded by Bob. Any opposed? Having no opposition, the motion carries.
Thank you.
We will excuse Vice Chair Ralph Crail, who has some urgent matters to get to. Thank you. Let's go to the next item, RFP substations damage repair by Engineer Mireya Rodriguez Fernandez.
Hi, good
Hello,
afternoon.
Engineer.
Everybody. Well, good afternoon. After Maria event, we have been assessing the substation damage, and we found at least 33 substations that has damage to the fences. All of them have damage also in the grounding system, including the gravel. Those are very important safety issues that we need to address as soon as possible. There are insurance money available to do that type of work. So we are requesting the RFP process since the works are along the island, several areas. What we expect to get from the RFP is to be able to group the works by region and to obtain contractors that can work several substations simultaneously and get similar prices on their proposals. So that's mainly the purpose of it.
Excellent, thank you, Engineer. Do we have a motion? Motion presented by Christian Sobrino. Anybody second? David will second. Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Engineer. Let's move over to the RFP on vegetation management services. Is that going to be covered by Mr. Jaime Lopez Diaz? Go ahead, Jaime.
Yes, good afternoon. We're asking for approval from the Board of Directors to move ahead with the RFP, with the publication of an RFP for an initial large-scale mobilization of PREPA's vegetation management functions. As you probably might know, there are 2 companies that are currently being engaged or hired by PREPA to support the vegetation management functions that are done in-house as well. However, those companies' scope of service is only limited to mechanical trimming and pruning. They do not cover transmission lines. And again, the scope is very limited. So PREPA management believes that a large-scale mobilization and strategy needs to be implemented immediately to address the vegetation management challenges of not only this hurricane season, but going forward. The scope of the RFP covers vegetation management services required from qualified firms with significant experience working on proximity of energized substations, transmission centers, high voltage and service power lines. The services will include, among others, chemical treatments of the vegetation, clearing paths towards the power lines, coordinating accesses with property owners, cycle-based maintenance, dead disease tree removal and individual tree removals, emergency work, among others. The successful bidders, we are expected that this will be a multiple bidder selection, of course. The successful bidders will provide the clearances required by the National Electric Safety Code, OSHA, PREPA, for tree limbs, vines, brush surrounding all designated electrical facilities and power lines. In terms of the timing, the timing, if approved by this board, we will move forward with the publication by mid-April of the RFP. Selection is expected by end of May and implementation by late summer. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
So you said a large-scale vegetation management. Tell me what do you mean large-scale? How much money?
Oh,
Is it small?
yes, I mean, in order to really have an impact, we're talking about $40 million a year, and and not only the contracting of outside support, but also vegetation management entails the integration of all vegetation management efforts, and with the efficient utilization of both internal and external resources. So our intention is, and this will be presented to the board on a further meeting, is actually to present to you a holistic approach to vegetation management, starting from the integration of resources from within as well.
So we're getting ready to get into hurricane season.
Yes.
So what are we projecting that we want to spend over these next 6 months in preparation for that?
But
This year, and then let me know what we spend last year.
Yeah, we have a combination of internal resources, and I guess the TND and Mireya can provide more flavor into that. Internal resources and the current contracts, which approximate about $2 million, which are the current contracts. So it's a combination of both, and of course these will support the resources that we're using right now.
Through the chair. Right now, it's my understanding that on the transmission side, we're actually running some transmission at 50% of its capacity because it's in danger of vegetation contact.
That's right.
And this
this
effort would be to address some of that.
Yeah. Our main transmission lines, the 230 kV and 230,000 voltage, comes from the south to the north in order to support the load the main load, which is located on the metropolitan area. It's 70% of the load is on the metropolitan area. So unfortunately, we cannot operate our main transmission lines over 50% because the elongation will touch all the trees or vegetation that are located near to the transmission line. So that's very important project for us, especially in the U.S. utilities. They use a combination with the vegetation management and the operation system in order to integrate both information and to improve the use of the transmission.
Follow-up question. How is that work done now? Own forces?
¿Ustedes quieren abundar en eso, por favor?
That's Sepúlveda.
Estás ahí, no te vi.
What did you say by our crews right now?
You mean internally, right? How is it done internally?
How we do it
overall?
Okay.
It could be through any.
It's our crews right now.
What?
It's our crews, but we are working right now under a fast track program. We don't have something that is what we want to do. Is something planned for a year, complete the year. We will work. We will work right now with this contract for something, from now to 5 years to complete a cycle of vegetation management. Right now, we can't do that. What we do is we go to the lands that we know by experience that need to be managed.
So you go to the trouble spots first.
Yeah,
That's
right.
right.
I mean, by the way, this contract is expected to be a multi-year agreement in order to achieve the goal that Mr. Sepúlveda just mentioned.
So right now we have 2 contracts in place from an RFP that we ran back on 2016, but we were able to put the contract in place in January this year. So we have 2 companies working on that. the experience that we had with that previous RFP is that local contractors, we don't have local contractors that really have that experience on transmission line. And we have a specific certification for tree trimmers that is required by OSHA. So for those contracts, what PREPA is doing is that we are training the people for them, and they pay us to get their people trained. But we don't have that capacity on our training centers to train the amount of people that we should be, that we want those companies to provide us doing the work. So anyways, we have those companies working right now in the field. The district engineers and the regions are providing the priorities on the works done. So they are assisting our crews on separate tasks, of course. And well, we are helping in the effort with those contracts, but that's not the impact we need to have.
By the way, that's part of the value here. If we are able to attract stateside companies that have experience in similar situation in U.S. utilities, our expectation, and we plan to understand better what the plan is to train and hire local talent. And that's very important for us.
Interject. I think that's a really important part.
So that would be part of the RFP process. It would be embedded in the RFP process, the ability of the companies to actually identify, hire, and train local talent.
Yeah, leave local capacity.
So in the follow-up.
Yes, excuse me. Christian, go ahead.
So what I would say, every single assessment that I have read from multiple parties, including Department of Energy, NYPA, the working group that was comprised by the Senate to prepare PS 1121, it said that I determined that prior to Maria, vegetation management was one of the greatest causes for damage, and it was, so I would say before that we were not doing it well. And that it was such an important part that the Senate and the House of Representatives included the requirement as a matter of law and policy that vegetation management programs be instituted in PREPA and any other party. And once that bill is signed, it's going to be our mandate. So I would actually say that this, my view is that what the management is trying to do is execute upon that mandate in reflecting that it was not being done well.
Follow.
Excuse me. Charles?
Just a quick header. I would think about keeping the two companies and getting this, because what you're going to find is everybody in the U.S. right now is in California. PG&E has $1 zillion court-ordered tree trimming vegetation management program, and all the contractors are out there. And they're hard to find, so the price is going to be high, and you're not going to find many. So you might get them and have them do the very technical transmission line work that requires a certification, and leave the other people to do. Because it's going to be hard to find people.
Yeah, we published an RFI about a month and a half ago, and just precisely because of that, we wanted to gather the interest out there, and of course get information, get some intelligence out of that process. And I would about 11 companies responded to the RFI. I would say about half of those are stateside, and probably the ones that you're thinking about in terms of being mobilized to other states in the continental U.S. So right now, the RFI doesn't mean that we're going to get the same for RFP, but the RFI respondents were half and half between locals and stateside.
Tomas, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just to understand, these companies most probably came from abroad and will be to, my question is, support or displace the current effort? That is the question, is to support or replace?
Initially to support.
Yeah.
But eventually to replace?
Eventually we will leave that, we're going to leave a good program, you know, with multiple fronts. You know, continuing, you know, so for example, the two companies that we have right now, private companies, are basically doing the same our people are doing in a way. So we're just making it faster, you know, more extensive. The new companies, we're trying to do it differently, with more vegetation management, with chemicals here and there, in a more strategic way. So we would like to present that to the concessionaires, and then they will decide the way to do it.
So, Mr. Chairman, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Charles.
Just one quick thing. It's so important. The Cleveland blackout, which cost something like $11 billion of that lost economic activity in one day, was tree trimming. It was caused by tree trimming. And if you have $100 worth of tree trimming this year and you don't do it and you put it off, it's going to cost you $150 next year.
Yep.
Because they grow. And it's so important to do it and keep on top of it. And a 5-year cycle is very aggressive. Now, things grow fast down here. That's not the cycle
Yes.
we would normally
Tropical
use
weather.
in the US.
Yep.
But you've got to do it, and you've got to do it right, because you're just snow plowing, huge cost in front of you. It might be 100 this year, 150, 200.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Sorry, can I ask, can we recognize for a second?
Yes, go ahead.
Because I want to make sure that Tomas's question is, Tomas is answering, are we going to displace our current program, which I understand to mean, are we exiting or moving those employees from their current task to some other task? Are they moving somewhere? What? So, and do I understand correctly that what you said is, we are not doing that, we're going to continue that capability, and we're going to add new capabilities with this RFP?
Right, and then eventually, that's something that the newcomer will decide how to manage it. But he's going to have a myriad of options.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that we approve this RFP for vegetation management services.
Seconded by Maria. And just to make a note before, this RFP and the RFP presented before, they both have legal opinions and certification of funds in the documentation provided, just to have that clear. Anybody opposed?
I oppose.
You're opposed to the vegetation management?
Can I explain why I oppose? Briefly. I truly believe that vegetation management is needed and maybe is needed to be subcontracted, but I feel I don't have all the information to cast a vote in favor of the measure. Although I do feel that vegetation management is a priority for this organization.
Okay. So.
Got one opposition.
One opposition, the motion carries. Okay, let's go to next item, RFP for master agreements and task order competitive contracting. Engineer Mireya Rodriguez Fernandez.
Well, since after Maria, we've been working on developing the strategy to manage the amount of permanent work projects that we are supposed to get in a near future with FEMA funding for the resiliency of the system. We are expecting at least several billion dollars for projects in different areas like transmission, substation, transmission centers, distribution, undergrounds, several different things. What we are trying to have is a way of streamline the process for procurement for the execution of those projects. We find that the MSA TOCC type of contracting a way of trying to streamline that amount of projects that we expect to have in terms of procurement. So we are proposing this process where we can have an RFP to get the information from several companies so we can create a pool of companies based on their capacities, bonding capacities, their qualifications for different type of construction work, and from that pool of companies that we get, that we sign our contract with them. Those contracts are not based on an amount, since what we will have is projects that will be approved with obligated monies from FEMA. Once we get those projects with obligated monies, we'll have a committee to submit requests for proposals to the pool of companies that already have those MSA with PREPA. We really believe that it will shorten the time for us to complete the contracting process for those projects.
So are there Is there a dollar amount associated with this master agreement?
No.
Okay, so is there a dollar amount that limits the contract sizes? So the awards, so if you find, say, 5 qualified companies, you now have them in your pool, now you do a task order, is there a limit on that task order size?
Well, no, the price on the cost estimate on the task order, or at least the group managing the task order procurement process will have the number that FEMA agreed to pay for those monies. So the companies will be competing for
I guess
different amounts.
So I'm a little unclear. So all of the contracts that would be issued under this master agreement are only issued with FEMA money? Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So it's
Sorry, I'm going to ask for a point of personal privilege here.
Go ahead.
Or point of order, what have you, depending on interpreting the rules. So, Tomas, in the last vote, you indicated that you did not have the information, sufficient information to vote in favor, so you decided to vote against it. Do you feel you have sufficient information in the rest of the matters before you take a vote, or is there an issue of not sufficient information in general being provided? Because I think it's important to make known if that is is it available? Did you have time to review it? Did you review all of it and not this one? Because I think it's an important issue.
This particular.
So it's only in the issue of vegetation. And is it that it wasn't available, or did you not have time to review it?
Prior to this meeting, we discussed several issues. This was not discussed. And I don't feel I've been clarified. Questions that I have.
Okay. So before, if you had the opportunity to discuss this beforehand with management, you would have felt more comfortable casting a vote.
That would be a possibility.
Okay. I'm good, sir.
Thank you, Christian.
And thank you for your point, yes. Because it's important to know that prior to this meeting, we had been meeting for a day and a half.
Yeah.
So what we are doing here basically is to formalize previous discussions. So this particular item was not discussed. So I'm representing consumers, I don't have information, so I'm sorry, I cannot do it.
Yes.
It was discussed, but he wasn't in the meeting.
Yeah, it was
So he said
one of the
he did
committees.
not- He's not.
In the
on
committee meeting, okay.
It was discussed in the committee
Okay.
meeting at length.
Okay.
But he was not a part of that committee, so I understand what his objection is.
Thank you, David. I think that's a good point. And just based on the information provided, what other information for future opportunities, what other information would you like to be provided in cases like this to make sure that you have adequate information in the documentation that is sent before the meetings? Because obviously we do a lot more discussion, but
And that's a great point. And I will say that every single decision that we're going to cast a vote, all the members need to be participants of discussions. Because if I'm not included in a committee that a vote is being called, so I will not have the interaction, although I may read the paper, but like, for example, this morning, I have several questions regarding the approval of the Accenture contract. But Mr. Medero explained that very clearly. We have a one-to-one interaction, and he explained all the questions, so I don't have any doubt. But in this particular matter, that did not happen.
Would you like to be included in all the committees?
No, it's a suggestion to the board that in every single resolution that we're going to cast a vote, the members of this board will have an opportunity to clarify any questions. Any question before is being called for vote.
Okay. No, we'll just make it, obviously, we try to submit the documentation and the different items that are going to be submitted prior, with various days prior. What we'll do is we'll make sure that if there are any pinpoint items that you're not a committee member of, obviously, the idea of the committee is to have, a 3-person team evaluate in depth so you can trust some of the evaluation that is going through the process. But if there are any items, please feel free to let us know, just to make sure that we discuss it in the time before the meeting.
Mr. Chair, if I may, Engineer Torres, has not yet created an account, a
Okay.
PREPA account, he just started.
Okay.
So I don't foresee this happening in the
Okay,
future.
perfect.
It's gonna be.
I think it's just a matter of the new meeting coming in, obviously, everything, and running forward.
Yeah, but I need to make something very, very clear. There were some inconsistencies on the question from Mr. Ortiz and your view, and we don't want to delay the meeting, we don't want to create. So I'm one vote, it's an 8 board member. I don't have all the information, and I cannot cast in favor. If there's any problem with it.
No, I just want to clarify, I have no issue with your vote. I just wanted to make sure that's a matter of order. Everybody had received the materials. That's
Yes.
all.
Yeah, and I think.
We're good.
And I think that we all want to try to make sure that we vote as unanimous as possible, so that we make sure that everybody is, has all the information available. I think that's just but we'll make sure that we improve that on the next,
We can move on.
meeting. All right, we had the
have a
issues of the
question.
RFP we had a question for the RFP, master agreements and task order competitive contracting.
Right, so, no, I asked my question. I was asking, do we have a motion at this point?
Do we have a motion?
I'll move.
You'll move it? Any second? Seconded? Do we have any opposition?
No, question.
A question, go ahead.
Perfect time.
So, can you summarize in a nutshell the purpose of this contract?
The purpose of this contract is to have a pool of contractors. In fact, we will need to review the process and run the process every year as recommended by OCPC. So the point is to have, let's say, the contractual part of the evaluation ready on those contractors, and we just give them the technical aspects and the pricing aspect to provide proposals and make the evaluation process.
And it's competitive among those
It's
firms in
competitive,
your pool.
yes.
They say here's a second amendment.
No, it hasn't happened.
We're at 6, Tomas. RFP for master agreements and
Oh, I'm
task order
sorry.
competitive
Yeah,
contract.
I'm sorry.
I have a
Okay.
question.
And what will be the, okay, no further questions.
Bob?
So I just want to make a comment that master agreements like this are a common thing in large organizations, are a very sensible way to have managers get projects done without having a long, extended RFP process. Because first we've been competitive in the RFQ or the whatever you've done to select your pool, and then uniquely in this one you have companies competing against each other for the job. So often in master agreements like this, you just are allowed to award the job to a company. So I think this is a more rigorous approach.
I think it provides for more diligence. Go ahead.
Executing master agreements with contractors and with master contractors was one of the recommendations included in the DOE report and the NIPA reports. It was referenced by Governor Mapp of the USVI in his hearings in Congress. So I think this is following up on those issues.
And for clarification, this is an RFP.
Yes, correct.
To identify the companies.
Again, we have a certification of funds. We have a legal opinion included in the documentation. So
you got a motion.
We got a motion and seconded. Do we have any opposition? No one opposed? Motion carries. All right, let's go to number 7. Mr. Nelson Morales, Second Amendment, Professional Services Contract 2019 P00001 between PREPA and Willis Towers Watson CAC Inc.
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
So thank you. So the authority currently has a professional services contract with the Forensic Accounting and Complex Claims Division of Willis Towers Watson. Willis Towers Watson assists PREPA in quantifying and preparing claim packages for property damage, inventory, and the contents, as well as in business interruption losses claim. That contract that's in effect right now through June 30th, 2019 has a maximum amount of $495,000. We are requesting the governing board to approve the increase in its total amount by $225,000. PREPA, continues to be under significant pressure to gather claim information to the extent and complexity of the damages to insured property and the impact on its operations. And extensive amounts of documents have been analyzed and revised by Willis Towers Watson to avoid duplicity of insurance company requests for information. And there is still extensive documentation needed for PREPA to conform all the requests for information, such as related to the Oaxaca Dam, substations, and building documentation and estimates. So we therefore request the governing board approval to increase the current professional services contract from $495,000 to $720,000. This contract does have a certification of funds.
We have legal opinion as well on the event.
Time frame? What was the time frame?
This is through June 30th, 2019, to the remainder of the fiscal year.
Do we have any other questions? Any motion? Motion. Motion presented by Bob, second. Charles, seconds the motion. Anybody opposed? Having no opposition, motion carries. Thank you, Nelson. All right, our last two items are presented by Mr. Fernando Padilla. Fernando, I don't know if you want to go through both of them, and
Yes.
we'll just go. I think they're very related, so we could go through them pretty quickly. We're talking about the Freepoint contract amendment and the Puma contract amendment.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman,
Fernando.
the board. Presented to the board is resolutions for procurement for fuel oil and diesel to serve our major power plants. First, regarding Puma, we received an unsolicited proposal from our current supplier. Based on the implementation and execution of the project to convert San Juan 5 and 6 to natural gas, we will be losing 60% of the volume for diesel. Therefore, we entered into a direct negotiation with Puma Energy, under which we negotiated price and terms in 3 different levels of tiers. The first of them is assuming that we achieve full execution of the project for San Juan 5 and 6 in a timely manner. This would be, we would keep the same pricing at $6.70 per barrel as a price added to the market price of the barrel. We have a second tier component which assumes that we have a delay of between 6 and 9 months in the execution of the project in San Juan 5 and 6, and therefore we would be consuming close to half of what we were consuming at the same point the last full year. This would drop 40 cents per barrel, representing close to $1 million in savings. And there's a third tier under which we would be consuming the same level, and this would assume that we would not execute the project for San Juan 5 and 6. This would drop 70 cents per adder, and the levels of savings would be dependent on the level of consumption, but the floor would be at least $1 million. We would be prevailing and maintaining the same levels of credit. We would be maintaining the same payment terms. Puma has been a reliable supplier, maintaining competitive advantage, interconnecting to San Juan 5 and 6. They would continue to deliver under the same fixed cost price structure to the units of Cambalache, Mayagüez, and the San Juan combined and the Aguirre combined cycle. Therefore, after entering in these direct negotiations, we believe that it's in the best interest of PREPA to move in with a 2-year extension with an option for both parties on the first anniversary of the contract to opt out.
So help me understand, there's the base costs and then there's these index costs. So what are the base costs? Are they constant?
There are market price. It's depending on Platts index. On public, on the available publications.
Okay, and there are fixed costs associated with these contracts as well?
Yes, there's a fixed cost embedded on the adders that are the prices we negotiate on top of the market price.
What percent of sulfur is this?
It's low sulfur diesel.
Were you here when I asked the question about the international agreement?
Yes, I did. There is no effect on this one, and the prices would be embedded. So as an example, the worst case scenario is that PREPA will remain at the same current adders we have right now. That's the worst case scenario.
Because a lot of the ships are talking about switching to low sulfur.
Correct.
And Fernando,
Yes.
what are the factors that determine the adder to the base price?
The fixed cost, inventory levels, operations of the supplier in order to procure the fuel to all of the units, and also their return on investment in the contract.
That includes transportation?
Correct. Yes.
Any other?
Basically, those are high level. Those are the fuel. Those are the components. So,
Wanna go to the next one?
Sure,
You-
go
you
to-
wanna
you
do
wanna
both at the
discuss
same
both
time?
of them?
However, do we have any more questions? Does anybody want to present the motion on the Puma
I'll
contract?
present that motion.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Charles will present the motion,
I
Edgar
second.
second, Bob will second. Any opposition? Motion carries. Resolution is approved.
While
Let's
he's
go
set-
into the last one.
While he's setting that up, can I ask a sort of a related question, but not specific to these?
Yes.
Thank you. So, let's just get it out in the air. There have been past fuel shenanigans at PREPA. And, people were under a RICO investigation for that. There were 3 companies, I think, that were involved in it. What's been our attitude, or what steps have we taken about doing business with those companies? Have those companies suffered anything as a result of the actions of their employees?
I'll put in a specific example. What happened with Petrobras?
All right.
Petrobras, back when those executives at their matrix company were accused. In essence, PREPA was going through the restructuring process, and at that point, and not necessarily in coincidence with the series of events, but Petrobras was let go as a supplier.
Yeah.
So at that point, PREPA went through an RFP, and we changed suppliers.
All right.
But it wasn't, just for the record, it wasn't necessarily.
It wasn't a retaliatory
Yeah.
step, but that was the end result.
Yeah, it was.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Let's go to the Free Point.
So, presented to the board is an extension for 2 years for the fuel procurement of number 6, bunker C fuel oil. Our current provider is Freepoint Commodities. We see the current adders are at 572 for the North Power Plants, 778 at the South Power Plants, with a $250 million credit facility with payment terms at at most 72 days. Currently, PREPA has been outstanding. The current average outstanding balances for this contract has been close to $100 million. In addition to that, we have paid ever since Freepoint has been our supplier. We have not missed a single payment. Therefore, protecting the position and protecting potential penalties the utility would have. We received an unsolicited proposal from Freepoint in order to seek interest of PREPA to extend. We ran and published an RFI to seek market interest and see the results. After evaluating the results of the RFI, there was no interest. We concluded that there was no interest on fuel service provider to PREPA, mostly in terms of the financial conditions that the utility is going and the bankruptcy it is going. So therefore, after entering into direct negotiations with Freepoint, this was the current contract expires in October, late October. So therefore, their proposed adders are as follows. The delta between each month is the commitment they currently have until the expiration of the contract. So therefore, dependent on the month we execute a contract with them, would be the price. The analysis reflects the earlier we enter into the agreement, the more savings we have. Assuming we enter into a potential May or June extension, the price reductions would look as follows. So let's say it would be at May. We're looking at $4.42 for the north, $6.42 in the south. It's close to over $1 for each one of them, close to 18% reduction. We would be seeking close to between $8 and $11 million respectively for the next 2 years. So we're slightly below the $20 million figure in terms of savings. Again, these are contracts that disperse close to $1 billion a year. And again, we're a market taker on the fuel price, so we get only to negotiate the adder. Two aspects are driving the reduction. One of them is that we're reducing the credit line from 250 to 200. So there's a cost financing component that we understand has no impact. Second, we feel comfortable because we're self-funding. We're paying on terms within our current operational funds. This contract is assumed under FOMB. So this is why we would seek an extension for an already assumed contract. And in addition to that, and overall, Freepoint has been a very reliable supplier. We've had a very good operational and commercial relationship with them. We have dropped since the. Can I go to the next slide, please? So I also would like you to see this. So we would see Petrobras's last contract in 2014 was $8.75. The current offer would average approximately $5.22. So it's a significantly lower price since we entered into the insolvency process. We're still higher based on 2013, which we still had a credit rating, and we were still a credit rating counterpart. So therefore, when we evaluated all of these aspects, heading into potential concessions in TND and sale of assets in generation, we think that a 2-year extension would allow PREPA to run through these transactions under a reliable source as we go through the transactions. Pending questions?
And a reliable financing vehicle.
Yeah. Correct.
Any questions? I think it was very well explained. Go ahead, Tomas.
What is the other in this contract?
Can I go one back? Oh, the current one, two slides back. So currently, San Juan and Palo Seco, $5.72, and Aguirre and Costa Sur, $7.78.
Why is the difference between San Juan, Palo Seco, and Aguirre?
There is a fixed cost component based on the logistics on the south. Aguirre is the main supply user.
They're the import port.
Exactly.
So they got to take it around the island to the other.
So actually, it's even a little bit more complicated than that.
Okay.
The tanker dispatches at the Colco facility, and then there's a barge. So we have two pieces of components.
So there's an offload to a barge, and then an offload
Yes.
from the barge.
So let me see if I understand. You need to bring it to a point, and that point is Peñuelas.
Peñuelas, sí.
Then you need to unload, take it to a barge,
For
to
the
Aguirre.
south. For the south, yes.
Aguirre and Costa Sur.
Correct. Correct.
And especially the Aguirre, will cost you more because of the loading and unloading and transportation.
Correct.
That is the difference of
That's the main-
$2.
Yes, that's the main driver. Yes.
Okay.
Do we have a motion?
I'll second.
David presents a motion for approval. Bob seconds the motion. Do we have any opposition? Motion carries. Do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Presented by Bob, seconded by Charles. No opposition. Meeting adjourned.